Richard Colbeck. His understanding of the value created by one's own hands, much as we do in aquaculture, can probably be traced to his beginnings of his working career. He started as an apprentice carpenter and joiner in the mid-70s. As far as I'm concerned, that's a pretty good basis for becoming someone who's going to be a politician. He then went on to run his own business and later consultancies in the building industry, which gradually morphed into involvement with politics at the local, then state, then eventually federal levels. Elected as senator in 2001, Senator Colbeck shadowed the fisheries portfolio as shadow parliamentary secretary from 2008 to 2013. Senator Colbeck is now the parliamentary secretary to the Minister for Agriculture, Barnaby Joyce, as this includes the responsibility of fisheries. Prior to last year's federal election, certainly Australians will know, the coalition announced plans to work with industry to develop a national aquaculture strategy. Senator Colbeck has been a long-standing supporter of the fishing and aquaculture industries, and we, the aquaculture industry, are certainly delighted to have someone who understands and supports our industry at the helm of this strategy in Canberra. Today, at the start of the conference, bringing together a host of Australian and international shareholders, I use the word advisedly, in aquaculture, Senator Colbeck is going to share his vision of future trends for aquaculture in Australia. Would you please welcome the Honourable Senator Richard Colbeck.
You can see the impact politicians have on crowds. I was warned it was going to happen. Thanks very much, Feroz, and congratulations on pulling the conference together, and it's great to see it back here for the first time since 1999. Can I acknowledge my parliamentary colleagues who are here today, both locally and those who are here with delegations from overseas, and particularly welcome all of those delegations from the sector internationally. It's great to have you here in Australia, also here in South Australia, although as a Senator for Tasmania, one of my few boasts about what we are the biggest at is that our aquaculture sector, our fisheries sector, is actually the largest producer of seafood in Australia. There's not too many other sectors in the Australian economy where we can boast that. And that's largely off the back of the Atlantic salmon industry in my home state, which is growing at the rate of roughly 30% per year at the moment, and has done for the last 3 years. So in the context of a 5% growth at an international level, that industry is something that's seen as very, very exciting in my home state of Tasmania at the moment. And I suppose Feroz, as someone who's been there since about the beginning, is why we are so excited about it as an industry. And also, I think, why it's so well recognised in the broader fisheries sector now. I think this year we're projected that aquaculture in Australia will provide a greater value of seafood than the wild catch sector. So again, in the broader food task internationally, where 25% of the globe's protein comes from seafood, and to replace that with terrestrially grown protein, you'd have to clear the world's rainforests 22 times over. The importance of the seafood sector, and of course aquaculture, comes very, very starkly into focus. It really is an extremely important sector, and that's one of the reasons that I'm so anxious that we have a good government framework here in this country for the development of the industry, but also in more broadly meeting the food task, not just here in Australia, but being able to participate in that at an international level. Here in South Australia, the icon industry of the aquaculture sector is the southern bluefin tuna sector, which is a really innovative industry that has completely changed the town on which it's based. It used to be a wild catch town. It was based around the wild catch tuna fishery. The decline in the species and the impact that that had on that local community, and the transformation by turning to farming of southern bluefin tuna, changing it to a high value market into Southeast Asia, really is something that I think should be applauded by that local community, and they're doing a brilliant job in producing something like 7,000 tonnes per year of southern bluefin tuna as a high quality product. Of course, it's not just about seafood. I shouldn't forget the pearl industry, which is a really important industry here in Australia. My wife was a beneficiary of that sector only yesterday for our wedding anniversary while I came to South Australia to talk to you. Worth some real brownie points, I have to say. But again, innovation, and I think that's an important thing that we need to recognise as part of the overall context of the industry here in Australia. And it is that innovation, it is that focus on quality research and development that's driving the industry. We have something of the order of 40 species that are managed through aquaculture here in this country, and obviously there's those that are really prominent and at the top of mind in the broader community, whether it be Atlantic salmon, southern bluefin tuna, oysters, mussels or pearls. But there's a number of emerging species as well. There's huge opportunity for growth here in South Australia, for example, in kingfish, an industry that really should be looking to grow significantly in the next few years and have a really ambitious target for where that sector might like to grow. In my home state of Tasmania, the Atlantic salmon sector is worth in excess of $500 million a year, with an ambition to go to $1 billion by 2020. So they have a plan, they're developing that work, and they're looking to the future. And with growth rates, as I said, of about 30% per annum, the target is not unrealistic. The target is not unrealistic. So we need to continue to work with the industry as a government to ensure that those targets are achievable. We went to the last election promising to reduce green tape or red tape by $1 billion a year. We've already started on that process, particularly in the context of environmental approvals, where we're developing one-stop shops with the states, so you don't have to go through 2 cycles of process. That's an important element. And particularly for some sectors of the aquaculture industry here in Australia, where some of them have been effectively bogged in respect of capacity for a considerable period of time, and we need to find a way to work our way around that. The barramundi and the prawn industries in Queensland in particular and the north of the country have been sitting on about 4,000 tonnes a year for about a decade now. We need to be able to step that up. We need to be able to increase that capacity if we're going to meet demand and be able to provide a quality product, which we're renowned for, a quality safe product, into the international market. And that's something that I, as the responsible member of the executive, is determined to do, but I know the government more broadly. Because in the context of employment and regional communities, this sector is very, very important in providing employment out into those regions and opportunities. And in the development of Northern Australia in particular, there's huge opportunities for our Indigenous communities in the development and growth of some of these industries. And those things should be considered in broader government policy, and so engagement in that sector is going to be very, very important for us now in the development of the policies, but then in the execution of those into the near future. And that's obviously reflected in a global sense where, as we've heard already, it is a major industry, and even at 5% growth, that's a significant growth rate and one of the fastest growing sectors in the world. In the context of assisting that development, we've committed as a government to an additional $100 million into research and development over the next 4 years. And I see aquaculture as one of the key beneficiaries of that. The focus that we're looking towards in the utilisation of those funds is collaboration, and certainly I think that the aquaculture industry has started to demonstrate that it can collaborate. It's certainly been the case in my home state of Tasmania, where the three major aquaculture businesses, the three salmon businesses, have started working together in respect of approvals for new marine environment for access. But also recently I launched the Australian Oyster Coast strategy, which is a New South Wales-based strategy where the industry there has looked around Australia and around the world at how they can market and coordinate themselves better. And so from an industry in that state that was quite fragmented to one that now has a strategy on how it will market itself, how it will promote itself and assist itself to grow, is a demonstration that coordination and cooperation is very important. So in the context of accessing that additional $100 million over the next 4 years for research and development, that coordination and cooperation is going to be very, very important. And I've already had a tap on the shoulder from the FRDC to express their interest in accessing those funds. Patrick is nothing if not forward. So that comes to our commitment to a national aquaculture strategy. One of the things that I saw in opposition was that there was obviously huge opportunity for growth in the aquaculture sector. You could see what was starting to occur in Tasmania. You could see the growth in the industry in other states. But it was also obvious that there were some issues that needed to be managed at a national level. So things like environmental approvals, things like access to veterinary products for the industry that needs to be managed and coordinated at a national level, biosecurity also. And it became evident that there needed to be somebody who was prepared to take the lead in doing that. And so our policy at the last election was to have a national aquaculture strategy. We already had in place a national aquaculture statement, which was initially developed in 2003. But in the development of that strategy, it was deemed relevant to update the strategy. So today, I can launch the updated National Aquaculture Statement, and that'll hopefully be available to you all post today's presentation. But it's a clear demonstration of the Australian government's commitment to the industry. It is also a clear demonstration of state and territory governments' commitment to the industry. And I would like to thank the state and territory governments, the aquaculture industry themselves and the FRDC for their assistance in preparing the updated statement. I think it's important that everybody has been closely engaged with that process. It's a statement of what government needs to do, it's a statement of what industry needs to do. And I think recognising each other's responsibilities, what they need to do and that they are prepared to do them is an important part of moving the industry forward. All too often, one looks to the other and waits for the other to act. But the fact that we're talking and we're preparing to work in concert together is, I think, a very important thing for the industry. So now we have the statement and we can use that as a platform to move on for the development of a national aquaculture strategy. Can I, in concluding, congratulate the organisers again for pulling this event together. I think it's a demonstration of the importance of the industry. It's really great that it's come back to Australia, so congratulations to all of those who have been involved in that. And I sincerely look forward to catching up with a few of you. I've already met some good friends here over the time that I've been here. I'll be around for the day, and if anyone wants to come and have a quick chat before I go, please do so. I really do appreciate the interaction. The value in being here is that as a Member of Parliament who has oversight over an industry like this, you actually can learn something. Rather than us telling you what we think you ought to know, it's valuable for me when you come and tell me what you think I ought to know. And so that's also an important part in the engagement of developing the strategy, so that there is a good line of communication open between government and industry. And in that context, it's really a pleasure to be here today to participate in the opening of the event, but also obviously to launch the National Aquaculture Statement, but also to hear what industry themselves have got to say. So to the team, thank you for the invitation to be here, and I really do hope you enjoy a very successful week. Thank you.